Everybody, good evening. It's Ellen Lewis from Crazy for You, and I am so happy you are here tonight. I have an exciting and special guest with me tonight, the lovely Allie Pleiter, who is author of more than 50 best-selling books and has just written her very first book in a genre that is absolutely near and dear to all of us, and that is of a knitting mystery book. So I'm super excited to have her here. Hey, Amelia. Hey, Carolyn. Thank you so much for joining us. As you saw on the newsletter, I have received a preliminary copy of the book from Allie, which I read, and she also graciously sent a giveaway copy that I'm going to be giving away at the end of the podcast. So stay until the end, and I will show you how you can be entered to maybe win that. So super fun. Oh my goodness, looks like we're going to have a full house tonight. Hey, Ellen, Terry, Emily, Mary. Oh my goodness, Mary, you're going to love this, especially because it's all Danish and Scandinavian. Mary is Danish. So, so as I said, been chatting with Allie backstage here for a bit, and I'm excited to bring her on. So everybody, please help me welcome Allie Pleiter. Hi, Allie.
Hello, it's great to be here. I'm so excited. Hi, everyone.
We are so excited to have you here, aren't we, people? Hey, Kathy. So, wow, it's just it's so exciting. I mean, I just finished your book, and as I said in the newsletter, and I mentioned to you backstage, I wasn't sure I was going to like it. You know, I was thinking it was going to be all, sort of fluff, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I know that Norma, who's on, has already read it, and she said she loved it too. That's a pretty typical response, isn't it, for you?
You know, people really do love it because, especially the folks who pick it up because they're knitters, because it's so imbued with all of that. And I think being a passionate knitter myself, I can communicate that in a way that people go, yes, I get it. So I do. I've gotten a lot of really wonderful response, and boy, does that make me. I mean, nothing makes an author happier than knowing that people like your book. So it's been a fabulous ride since the release. No one's having more fun than me.
Oh, that's great. So, it seems like maybe you get more direct feedback on this from your readers than you do from other genres that you have written in, or is that just my imagination?
It's about equal. I mean, that was not true when I first started writing 20 years ago. Social media has really changed the sort of direct communication that we have with readers. And so I do hear a lot from readers that they like it or they don't. A funny thing, if someone's going to tell me they don't like it, almost 90% of the time they spend the 50 cents to send me a letter. Not quite sure what that says. But no, I do actually have a lot of communication, and it's fun. I mean, I loved doing book tours and going to book, conventions and things like that. And I've missed it ferociously the last year and a half. I'm the sort of circus freak that is a writer extrovert. It's very, very hard to be an extrovert and a writer. No, I'm going to take that back. It's hard to live with an extroverted writer. My husband lives with whole communities of people stuffed into his wife.
He must be an introvert.
He's a total introvert. I'm surrounded. All my family members are introverts. And I would not be lying if I said that back before the pandemic, he would occasionally look at me and go, when's your next trip? We need to get you out in front of an audience. You're getting a little squirrely on us. So I love the interaction, and it's been terrific.
I think that's awesome. I think, the pandemic has been a very, very strange thing for all of us, but, we've all had to pivot and do certain things, and, a lot more time at home, a lot more hygge, which is that Danish term we're all familiar with, a lot more cocooning, a lot more cozy. So do you want to talk a minute? This book on Skein of Death is in a very special niche. It's a a mystery book. It's a knitting mystery book. It's a cozy knitting mystery book. I mean, you want to talk about niching down. How does that happen? How do you decide on a niche? Maybe talk a little bit about your background and how you got into the knitting, writing a cozy knitting mystery.
It was a long, strange journey. I did not start out as a writer. I am not one of those people who, started writing the minute they could hold a crayon. I was actually an actor. I went to Northwestern University to become a soap opera star, was my very specific. So clearly I'm into very specific goals, and discovered very early on after I graduated that my height, I'm actually 6 feet tall, and that's quite a detriment in television. So my soap opera career went down pretty fast. And I went from acting to directing to producing to fundraising for cultural organizations, which was my first foray into a lot of writing. It's a lot of storytelling. So I was never a writer, but I was always a storyteller. And through one day, I was having a very bad day at fundraising, and I was talking to a friend on the phone, and I basically said, I'm so tired of raising money. I should just trash it all and write Bodice Busters for you. It can't be that hard. Because she actually, and so I was trash talking her career. She was a friend of mine, and she was the editor for a romance major New York publishing house. And she got annoyed, as well she should have, from my trash talking her, and said, okay, fine, smarty pants, I dare you. Go write a romance novel, and you send it to me, and I'll tell you whether or not you have any chops at all. So I did. It took me 3 years, and I wrote this book, and she wrote me back and said, wow, you have chops. I'm going to go introduce you to a literary agent. But I'm going to tell them they cannot sell the book to my house, because you'll be defending the fact that you and I were friends. And I want you to be legit. So I'm going to introduce you to this literary agent and tell her, shop it anywhere but where I work. And so
what does that mean, chop it? Like put it out there? Or?
Yeah, put it out for bid to other publishing houses. It was bought by a major New York house, and that was the first of 47 romance novels since.
Was that a cozy romance? Or was that a throbbing manhood kind of romance?
It was a historic throbbing manhood kind of romance.
Okay.
And because I had said to her, well, if I'm going, this shows you how completely naive I was. I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I should probably make a lot of money at it. So what sells? She said, well, we're getting a lot
throbbing manhood.
No, I mean, ballsy of me. I said, what sells? And she said, oh, a 19th century romance. We've been doing really well with 19th century Texas. I went, great. I hate history. I was born in Connecticut. Piece of cake. So I wrote this book, and that became the first romance novel. And then slowly, I also wrote a parenting book for Zondervan, which is a faith-based house, because I went from working mom to at-home mom, and I totally rotted at it. I was really bad at it. And I sort of unpacked that into a manual for how to become an at-home mom. And that's when Steeple Hill, which is the faith-based arm of Harlequin, came to me and said, would you put these two together and write mommy romance for us?
Mommy romance?
So I did. I wrote
mommy
romance of married young women trying to find their feet again, more like women's fiction than I said romance.
So are they having romances within their marriage, like with their husband, rekindling, or they're not out looking for the pool guy?
No, it's probably closer to call that women's fiction.
I see.
And that was also right around the whole chick lit genre. So I went from genre fiction to genre fiction to genre fiction. And as I was doing all of these category romance novels for Love Inspired, which was the name of the line. So Love Inspired, you can find them in Walmart and Meijer, and they're supermarket romance novels. And I began to put more and more knitting in them. A, because I wanted excuses to go visit knitting places and call it research and write it off. And B, because it was a passion of mine. And so it got to the point where about, I would say 2/3 of my later romance novels had knitting characters and actively involved knitting. I did one on a bison ranch that was all about bison fiber and everything else. And
fun. Okay.
And then a friend of mine who wrote never writing mysteries, friend of mine who wrote mystery says, my house is looking for a knitting mystery writer. Do you think you could do that? And I thought, well, I've written a bunch of different genres. Why not that? So I wrote it, and I didn't know I liked to kill people. He's like, oh, wow, there's this side of me I didn't know. So I said to my agent, I want to do more of these. And that's where we created the whole series. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? This is not the answer you.
How many ways can I kill people? I don't want to get on Allie's bad side.
You have to be really, really careful about your Google searches when you do what I do for a living.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty amazing. I do have friends who've been flagged by the FCC for things.
Really?
So we created this whole series around the yarn shop, and that's where the yarn shop and Libby and all of that, because cozy mysteries need to have a really strong sense of community. They're always an amateur sleuth. It's never a grisly NCIS kind of murder.
Okay, so these are like, I mean, I asked you, are they formulaic? And I didn't mean any insult, but I mean, so it has to be like, so you have to have a community. It's not grisly. It is, what else? What are the other aspects?
It's not as formulaic as romance.
Right.
Because, guy gets meets, cute meet, loses girl, whatever. That's a little more formulaic. It's probably more accurate to say their expectations.
Okay.
Of the sleuth is almost always a woman starting over in life. It's coming up with her community, and she solves it through her own wits. Think of Murder, She Wrote is the classic
Miss
cozy
Marple
mystery.
Yeah. Yes,
everybody.
I grew up on that.
Yeah,
so we have a question from Amelia, who's one of our best knitters and readers. Do you come up with your own titles, or are the professional pun writers at the publisher?
Oh, I love that you think I'm a professional pun writer. Oh, that's going on my wall. One of the great joys of this particular line and particular publishing house is that I have tremendous input on my titles, which is not true. Category romance writers, you end up with the amnesiac cowboys, secret baby, whatever. And that's the worst part of my job, are the awful titles that happen there. But I have tremendous input on my own. And so we did come up with On Skein of Death. I will tell you, the next one is called Knit or Die Trying, DYE. And the one after that is called It Came Upon a Midnight Shear. Sometime after that is going to be No Cashmere Coincidence. I mean, that to me is all of the fun. They sort of the puns are kind of an expectation of titles with puns in them.
It's cute. I think it's cute.
And they're funny and they're memorable, and
yeah, I mean, they're cute. They're cute, and I think it's all part of it. And I didn't think I was going to love the cozy, but I so loved the cozy. And I mean, it was a sort of a cliche, me sitting there in my pajamas all day with the dog reading the book. And my daughter was here and she's like, "Can I get you something, Mommy?" I'm like, "I'm reading."
Well, my job here is done.
Right, exactly. So how did you decide on the setting for this book? Collinstown. Yeah. It's a perfect spot for a yarn store. I mean, I remember when I was deciding where to open my yarn store, where to put it, it had to be on the square. It had to be within the incorporated town where we had a mayor and a town council. And I mean, it is a little arts and entertainment district, and we have little artsy places. And I mean, aren't all yarn stores in places like that?
Yeah, for the most part. I've gotten really good at asking people where the quaint small towns are, because that's also where I have to set romances. And I do like to set them all over the country. And it is very important to me that I visit the place that I'm basing it on. I always take a real town and then, mutate it, either pick it up and put it someplace else geographically or change it around. But there's always an actual town in the back of my head. And so it was no more scientific than my brother lives in Washington, D.C., and I wanted an excuse to visit my nieces. But I also knew there was the Maine Sheep and Wool Festival. I knew there was a lot of that there. I knew I needed to be near a major metropolitan area so that I could bring in characters and people and events. So there's a sort of a checklist that I have for my ideal town. And I hadn't done something on the East Coast in a very long time, and I wanted to. So that's really where it came from. It wasn't terribly scientific, but how to take that real town and spin it out into all these different fictional ways is something that I've gotten a lot of history in doing, and that's part of the fun for me.
Yeah. So we do, we used to do a retreat every year, and I would look for those little towns too.
Yeah.
I would take, we would go to those little places, and it was always some cute little place that had a yarn store or some other point of interest. So I get exactly what you're talking about. But Collinstown is just so cute. I mean, with a pie store. God, I wish we had a pie store or a bakery.
If I'm going to be able to make up my own town, it's going to have a pie store across the street from the yarn shop. I mean,
yes,
there's a certain little fantasy of mine going on in here.
Yeah, a bakery of any sort would be great. We have a chocolate store in Leonardtown. You should come. You need to come visit Leonardtown.
Yes, please. I will.
We'd love to have you. That would be great. So, so my question was, does the town come first or the yarn shop come first? We answered that. So what other sorts of little businesses do you think there might be in Collinstown? What else is there?
Well, we've established the coffee shop. There are a couple of others. And you literally, especially if you're envisioning a long series like we hope the Riverbank will be, you literally have to sort of pay attention to the factuality of it. There's a map of Collinstown on my office wall. I have someone who serves as sort of my continuity editor, where she gets every book and she has this massive database, and she'll say, nope, bank was on the west side of the street in book 2, those kinds of things, because I'm terrible at that. So you do have to sort of pay attention to it. So I do have an idea. I can walk right down Collin Avenue in my head and know what's there. And sometimes they just pop up, like the diner in this one just sort of bubbled up out of my fingers one day. And, so that's to me is part of the fun of the things that my brain concocts. And then later I go, oh, I needed a diner. Isn't that perfect? And you kind of go, wow, that zeitgeist thing actually really works.
So we have a lot of calls for dangerously delicious pies to come to Leonardtown. We want you to come to Leonardtown. Leonardtown really kind of is
dangerously delicious pies. That sounds fabulous.
That's what we need. Maybe you should open that, Elaine. Can you make a pie?
There we go.
Come and make a pie. We have a main street. It's the square, and it goes down the hill to the water. And we have a wharf, and we have a gazebo, and it's so cute. You really should come visit.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Maybe at the end of February you could come visit.
Next book comes out in April.
Oh, fun. Okay, so let's talk about the characters. Obviously, Libby, the yarn store owner, is the main character. Who is she based on? How did you come to Libby?
Characters come to me in 2 different ways. Either they sort of invade themselves in my head almost fully blown. That was true of Libby. Libby just sort of like plunked herself down into my imagination right away. I knew her name was Libby Beckett. I knew she owned a dog. Those kinds of things. Where that comes from, I don't really know. I try not to analyze it too much. Other characters like Gavin or Nolan Hutton in this particular one, I come with a piece. And the way I describe it is actually a knitting thing, in that when you snag a sweater and you pull it and it goes down the row, and then you pull some more and it goes down the row. And that is how some stories unwind themselves and characters reveal things. Anybody who thinks that the author is in charge will not.
Really?
Herding cats. I mean, most of the time I know the general arc of the story. I have to. But a lot of times they will surprise me. One of my favorite stories is I was writing a book that was a romance called My So-Called Love Life. And it's now out in electronic, but at that point it was a paperback for Harlequin. And I was on an airplane writing a scene, and all of a sudden, Nigel owned an iguana named Marilyn with a rhinestone collar. And it came out of my fingers, and I literally said out loud, Who knew Michael won't go on a name Marilyn with a rhinestone collar, which is really not something you should do on a plane.
They look at you sort of funny, don't they?
Yeah, it was as much. So sometimes it's as much as a surprise to me, and that to me is the magic and the fun of it, and the whole reason why writing is fun. And then other times it's just a slow unpeeling. What was it? Shrek said, "Ogres are like onions," kind of thing. So it happens. It happens both ways.
So in the film version of On Skein of Death,
Oh, please, from your mouth to God's ears.
who plays Libby? This is a fun game. We always do this in book club. Like, okay, who plays this person? And
I don't know her name, but she is the woman who played opposite, or I think maybe she still does. She plays opposite Tim, what's his name, in Last Man Standing.
Okay, people.
And she played opposite, and she was also one of the leads in, now I'm not going to be able to remember what it is, the Kaminsky Method.
I guarantee you one of our viewers will know that.
Somebody.
So you have this person. You have her in mind.
And actually, that started. Harlequin asks me to, as part of the production process, asks me to cast the book from well-known celebrities so that they have something to start in. So it's always, I'll start with that person as to that's what she looks like in my head, but it never goes beyond the appearance. Occasionally, I'll hear their speech in my head, but it's just the visual. And then the character comes out of that. But that's who is my is the person that came to mind when I was thinking about it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Hank. Nancy. Okay, so Barbara says, is it Nancy? Somebody named Nancy?
I have no idea. I'll have to look it up now. It's going to bug me.
We'll figure it. Okay, well, somebody look it up. Somebody
quick to IMDb, right?
Right, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Hank. Hank is the shop dog.
Yes.
Some shops have pets. Some shops would never have a pet, right?
Right.
I have two big fluffy dogs that are not ever in the shop because they would be a disaster in the shop and have been. Nancy Travis.
Thank you.
Woo. All right, cool.
Thank you, knitters. Awesome.
Yes. See, people are so good. Is that Tanya Koenig? Oh my goodness, I love her. How are you, Tanya? I've missed you, darling.
Tanya came up with our answer.
She knows everything. I mean, she's in our Tuesday night group, and if we have a question, Tanya knows the answer. She's so smart.
Got it.
Okay. Do you have a dog?
I do.
Is it a Boston Terrier?
It is a, oh my gosh. Paisley is a what? She is I'm completely blanking on my dog's breed. She's one of those, she was a rescue. So give me a little credit here. It was she is a Lhasa Poo. So she's part Lhasa Apso and part poodle, and has so she's very cute and very small and very fluffy, but she's quite the mouthy broad. So she's a great mix. And she has a snaggletooth. She has one tooth that sticks up like that. And I just totally
that
won
makes
my
her
heart.
so cute. Yes, of course. They can't be too perfect. Yes.
So like here is the, there's the dog sweater pattern in the book.
Yes.
This is Paisley's dog sweater pattern. This is Paisley's dog sweater that I knit because she's like 20 pounds. She's a little thing.
I don't think either of my dogs needs a sweater.
Well, you know what? I will perfectly admit I knit the thing and she won't wear it.
That's okay. I knit a vest for my son and he didn't wear it either. And a vest, 3 hats, never worn a single one of them. Oh my gosh. So why Hank? Why a dog? Why not a cat?
A dog because I knew dogs.
Okay.
And cats and yarn, there's that sort of inherent danger with cats and yarn. And I knew I wanted her to be able to walk back and forth from the shop, to give her time to think or, to notice something or whatever. And I only know of one cat that ever gets walked, and not well. So I knew that she had to be walked, and I never owned an English bulldog, but I've always sort of loved that sort of Winston Churchill, grouchy, jowly thing. And so this was my chance
Oh, so he's an English
He's an
bulldog.
English
I
bulldog.
kept thinking he was a Boston Terrier. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just guess
Well, they're close.
similar. Yes.
Yeah. And of course Hank, because yarns come in
Right.
Hanks.
Right. Absolutely. I think that there is at least one other yarn store owner that has a dog named Hank. So cute.
I would expect there are probably many.
Yes, Danette wants to know how many knitting projects my dog Malcolm has eaten, and it is a number greater than 3. Less than 10, greater than 3.
There you go.
Charlie has eaten 2. So Malcolm's odds are much better because Malcolm is 3 years old and Charlie is 3 months old. So
we'll
let's
give
see.
that.
Yeah, we'll give him that. Yeah. Okay, so they have to Amelia, I'm shocked that you are reading cozy mysteries. That is not what I would have thought, Amelia is the sci-fi kind of fantasy genre gal. I guess there are no cozy fantasy. Maybe there are. I don't know.
No, I'm a pretty eclectic reader. Right now I'm reading a really dark mystery called The Guest List. Just finished a sci-fi book. Next is it's called the Hail Mary Project, or just Hail Mary. I think it is, from the same guy who wrote The Martian. So I read all over the place. So I think it's just part of some people's palette of all the different things they read.
I like all of it. I mean, like I said, I'm not a fan of the sort of cream puffy stuff like we talked about earlier. I just not a fan. It's too cloying. But this was so good. But the characters were so real, and the dialogue was natural, and it didn't feel. What was it you said? It didn't feel like a Hallmark movie.
I don't like to read things that make my teeth hurt like I'm chewing on tinfoil. Right?
Exactly.
I want to feel really good.
Right.
And feel like I said, I want to feel like these are people I want to know and have lunch with, and have down the street from me.
Right.
Not people that stay on their Hallmark movie channel. Not that I hate the Hallmark movie.
No.
Us romances, man, you've made it when you're a Hallmark movie. So
right, exactly. I mean, we all hope that your stuff gets made into a Hallmark movie. And if it was your stuff, I might even watch it.
Well, there you go. Me too.
So, Pearl, who was your inspiration for Pearl? How did you guys, probably most of you haven't read this, but Pearl is this fabulous Scandinavian. She's Danish, right?
Yeah.
So she's Danish, and she's
and that's actually very important, which is why
right.
she hesitated a little bit.
So she's doing all of these beautiful, traditional designs, and she's, designing all these patterns. She's coming out with this beautiful needle line, and she's the one who gets killed. She's like coming for an event. It would be like if Tanis Gray showed up at my shop and she got killed there. It would be horrible, right? But so who was your inspiration for Pearl, and how did that come to be?
Pearl really came out of nowhere. I started with a fascination for, it actually started, I was in a yarn shop in Texas, and I was looking at a sweater that had a Native American origin. And I thought that was really fascinating. And I started talking to the shop owner about it. And so the part of the blessing and the curse of being an author is your brain goes, what if, all the time. And I thought, what if you borrowed something from a culture and they didn't like it? Like they weren't happy about that. I mean, cultural misappropriation is actually rather timely.
It's a thing, sure.
So I thought, well, where's the knitting version of that? And I immediately thought of Selbo mittens, which are those marvelously intricate Norwegian mittens that we think of when we think of like ski mittens or ski sweaters. And there is a whole culture. There was, they're traditionally given as engagement gifts, and there's all this. There's wonderful varieties, but at the same time, there's certain things the Selbo mitten has to have. So that's where it started. And then I thought, okay, who would tap into that? And then of course you need to, this is probably getting in a little more into to pulling behind the curtain, but if you're going to kill the person off, you can't have everybody fall in love with them too much.
So how do you decide how soon somebody's going to get killed off? I mean, she's a very sweet character, but obviously she's not fully fleshed out.
Right. Right. You
Yeah.
can't. It's readers don't like that.
Yeah,
you
that
know.
would be Game of Thrones.
We'll let the folks at Firefly or Game of Thrones do that one. So there isn't a rule. It's not like they have to, you have to find the body by chapter 4 or anything like that. So it usually unfolds at a pace where I like to think that my storytelling spidey senses are enough that I know, okay, it's time to take care of that. You want to, and particularly with the first book in the series, you want to take time to establish. There's a lot about the shop and Libby and what she wants to do and why she wants to do it, because I'm sort of setting the stage for this long series. So it's more a sense of probably just an organic sense of timing as to when it has to. You can't wait too long because people are like, okay, let's get, this is a mystery, right? Let's get on with it. So it's kind of a balance.
So you did a lot of research into this, obviously. Who did you contact? Did you just go to the library and start looking at it? Did you talk to any Danish people? How did that go down?
A little bit of everything. I especially love to do my research person to person. So my favorite way to do research is to find an expert and talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a little bit of, and I tried to read enough so that I can ask intelligent questions. But I don't get too far into it, because a lot of times I will uncover something talking with an expert and go, got to put that in a story. So I try to do it in like the first 20,000 words. I try to do a lot of that research. So there was a lot to be researched about Selma Mittens. I spent a lot of time watching Arne and Carlos on YouTube.
I wondered if that would come up. They're great, aren't they?
They're great. And as a matter of fact, literally the morning of we were taping the audiobook, I got this desperate email from the producer saying, we don't know how to pronounce some of these words. We've got the sort of Google pronunciations. And so we went tearing through every Arne and Carlos episode so that we could hear them say it, so that we could get it right. So that was kind of the funny things you don't expect to know about. So I may have to actually send a copy to Arne and Carlos.
You absolutely should. I think you absolutely should. I think that would be adorable. I mean, they are so sweet and real.
I hope
like you. Yeah, I think they'd be super flattered.
I talked to I called my local yarn shop, whom you know,
Janet. I've known Janet
and I said I need someone who knows Danish knitting, or Norwegian knitting, and she connected me with someone who read through the manuscript. I always try to find someone who is an expert. Oh, hello, sweetheart.
Sorry.
Oh no, perfect. If my office door weren't shut, Paisley would be in here. So I try to find somebody who's an expert. And then, having said that, there are times where I need to bend the facts to serve the story.
Okay. So, how did you do that in this instance? I didn't notice any of that. I mean, I was looking for it too. I was looking for like, does she really know her stuff? You do.
There are probably people who would say that a true devotee of Selma Mittens would not be sort of bastardizing the designs to have coffee cups and things like that in them. The knitting needles do not exist. They are completely a fiction of mine. As a matter of fact, I think physically they would be impossible to produce with all that inlay. It would snag the yarn.
Yes.
So some of those kinds of things where I sort of take off a little bit, and well, I can't. Some of the other things that I would say I couldn't, because it would kind of be a spoiler.
Right.
So
Right. No,
there's
I get it.
a few places, but I try to get it so that anybody who knows their stuff wouldn't go, she didn't do her homework.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think you probably could do an inlay that would be smooth enough. I was going to ask you whether there would be, whether there would be circulars and maybe an interchangeable set.
I literally, it is a function of my imagination. And so no one has tried to make them yet. And there is no super obvious design that you would know instantly on a needle like that. So some of it's a little bit messed with to serve the story, but it's always, I try to say that it's it needs to be plausible.
Right. Absolutely. I want to point out what Mary's saying. Mary is my team member. She's fabulous and she's Danish. She said Arn loves Nancy Drew.
Okay, well, there we go. I'll have to
send him a signed copy. I think he would adore that. That would be fabulous.
I will. There's got to be a way.
Absolutely. Oh, I could certainly get it to you. Trisha Malcolm could get it to them. Okay. That would be super fun. Oh my goodness. So let's talk about what else. So what kind of knitting do you like to do as a knitter? Are you a sweater knitter? Are you a accessory knitter?
I'm a big fan of shawls.
Okay.
I have a huge shawl collection for a couple of different reasons. First of all, when you're at a book fair, it's really nice to have something very unique to sort of dramatically throw over your shoulder or doing speaking. I don't usually do sweaters because my attention span, I think, won't hold it. I've done one or two. I do just about everything. I've done hats and mitts and scarves and socks and bags and tea cozies and all kinds of things. Right now, I'm doing this really super intricate yak down beaded shawl, which is going to take me like a year. But the advantage for that is that it's because it's very, very fine yak down. And I think it's like size 4 needles or something. You could swoosh the whole thing into a small thing and take it on an airplane. So
it's going to be so warm.
It's kind of light, so I'm hoping that it won't be. My daughter's getting married in September, and I may or may not buy the dress to match the shawl.
It's kind of taupe, isn't it? Yak is sort of.
Well, this is actually a deep purple. It's dyed.
Oh, it's been over dyed. Yeah.
So,
okay. Beautiful.
So we'll see.
That sounds very nice. Wonderful. So, what's the future for Libby and Gavin?
Libby and Gavin.
They're a cute couple. I love the daughter. I love the mom.
Jillian's one of my favorite characters. Jillian and mom were like, I had to be very careful because a lot of times they ran away with the scene and I had to like, now, you're secondary characters, stay down. But it's an interesting balance in that are anyone here old enough to remember the show Moonlighting?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
we're all old enough.
Yeah. Once they got together, or Cheers, Sam and Diane. Once they got together, the show was like over for so many people. So you have to be very careful how you slowly bring them together and pull them apart and bring them together and pull them apart. And luckily having a career in romance gives me some serious chops to do that.
Yeah.
So they're going to sort of bumble their way along. And I think whenever I learn that the series is over, I may, but hopefully 20 books from now, no one's going to wait 20 books.
You never know. I would read them.
I will.
It takes me a day. I mean, I'm like binging them. Like
neither confirm or deny the fact that there is a kiss in book 3. Ooh. But not saying for sure. And so it is actually quite a careful balance that you need to do enough to make it satisfying, but not enough that you sort of, blow it for the rest of the series.
Yeah, we don't need to know about that. Okay, so how do you handle a character like Jillian when you have a series that lasts years, right?
It's very interesting. I was literally doing a magazine article on that for the Writers Association that I belong to. And I think it's Sarah Pretsky decided to freeze her heroine at like 50. And so that, because at some point you want them still to be, so it's actually a big debate whether or not when you're doing a long-standing series like that, like think of the Peanuts comic strip, right?
Right.
They never grew up.
No.
So no, I am, for the moment, I am aging everyone appropriately.
Okay.
I hope that I have the problem of wanting, but then again, I look at, I'm a huge fan of the Outlander series. Man, I ran to get the next one.
Yes.
When it was open. And she has very successfully aged her characters. So I think it can be done if you do it right. it'll be the best problem in the world to have.
So Jillian is 13.
Jillian is 13.
She's got the rest of middle school, high school, college.
She's in 8th grade, so we dump her into the high school in the next book, and all the things that go along with that. And of course, it drives Gavin absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I imagine.
My favorite lines of Gavin's is, nothing will make you afraid of high school boys like having been one.
He's such a good guy. He's such a good guy.
Like almost too much. Like he needs to just sort of take it down a notch.
So
which is fun.
Is the next book going to have a lot about Libby and her campaign for president of the Chamber of Commerce?
The next book will contain the results of the election.
Okay. So we don't have to deal with that whole ugly process.
No. But I mean, it is great fun to let George be a complete horrible person.
Yeah, he is and really the worst.
He's awful. He's more awful in the next book. So that's kind of fun. Villains are a lot of fun to write. He's not a villain. He's just sort of like the town annoyance.
Yeah. So how much time do you put into someone like him? I mean, do they tend to be flat characters, or does he actually have a like a backstory? Like he's really actually a decent guy and he's nice to his wife, but his business is struggling, or is he just a jerk and he has no redeeming qualities?
At the moment, he's just a jerk. I have had great fun redeeming jerks in other books, in other series. Literally, the romance that I wrote that's coming out in, when is that one coming out? It's the last book in the series, and it was the editor and I agreed that the best thing to do would be to redeem this absolutely horrible woman. So it does happen. I try to make sure that nobody's flat.
Yeah.
Somebody really minor like Tom, who owns Tom's Diner. Well, we don't get into that yet. We may, however, but it's sort of, you want to spend a lot of time on the characters that are important to this story, but not make them be, awful. So the walk-on characters, you usually give them enough that they're vivid for the reader.
Yeah.
And then the main characters, you try to really flesh out in terms of backstory and things like that.
I like Margot. I like the baker. She seems to always show up with just the right thing at just the right time.
Margot was my fantasy best friend. She's the best friend everybody wants.
Somebody who owns a bakery, hell yeah.
And says wise things and shows up when you need them, and she's like
up for everything. Yeah, no, that's great. I thought it was really cute. And I think you really managed to capture the community. I always say about Crazy for You, it's not just a place to buy yarn, it's a place to belong. People in the shop, they come for a lot of reasons. They may be wondering because they're curious, they used to knit, they have a problem, they need some yarn. But around the table, I mean, sometimes I have one customer I adore. She's like, I'm here because I'm running away from home. It's like, I get it. I'm here. I mean, that's why I'm here too.
Have a piece of pie, right?
Yeah, I need to have more pie in the shop, but yeah.
It is. And I think that's something, what the thing that's been fascinating is the non-knitters are like, really? That's how it is?
Right.
It's not just you just come in to buy yarn. And I'm like, no. And that's literally when I was traveling a lot. First, I do a lot of public speaking. And when I was traveling a lot, I would always go to the yarn shop. And that was my first stop. And I would say, where should I go have dinner? Where should I go get coffee? Who what are the best baked goods in town? And I would sit there and spend my downtime in the yarn shop rather than the hotel lobby or wherever else. So knitters are really excited that that's been sort of articulated in the book, that a lot of people say, that's it. That's what I feel. That's what I go for. And the non-knitters are going, oh, wow, really?
Yes. Non-knitters come in. Yes, they're attracted by that. I mean, what we have in the shop and around the table. And I mean, honestly, the people that are watching, they're part of that community, and we're very connected. And I absolutely have walked out the door to the bank or to the pick up, soup for lunch or whatever. Okay, Evelyn, you're in charge or what, whatever. I got to run to the post office, which is right next door. But still, I mean, there's the many hands and the sharing of this and the sharing of that. And it really is quite special. And I do think it's unique among retail establishments. I haven't seen it in any other kind of retail business. I don't know.
I think because and coffee shops are the only thing that comes close, but maybe bookstores in some sense. But you're sitting for hours if you do it right. If a good yarn shop, if you come and you stay for 2 hours, like everybody's fine with that. They love it. They want it.
Right.
So I think that community, my favorite story is I was in a yarn shop. I don't even remember where it was, but I walked in and there's always the table, right? Where everybody,
of course,
there's usually baked goods and coffee, whatever. And the conversation around the table was the best ways to knock back your colonoscopy prep. And you gotta have it cold. It's much better cold.
Oh, it absolutely is too.
Learn.
We talk about it from the standpoint of the fact that there are so many, we're all different. I mean, demographically, so there's me, there's Ginny, who likes to say she has kids my age, which she does. And, there are young girls and there's Mary and there's Jenny and they're my team. And, everybody that's there, the whole age spread, we are largely women. So there's this community. I mean, I'm like, we're all the moms, we're all the daughters, we're all the sisters, there together. Yeah. The stuff that, like, my mom died in 2018 and I still think, there's some stuff I wish I could ask her or whatever. And I ask Ginny or I ask Mary and, as a mother of twins, there are things that I will say maybe to Mary's daughter who has twins, and we share this. And these are women we would never in a million years have come into contact with, let alone be friends with, if it weren't for this shared love of knitting. So I think that's huge.
Yeah. We are moving in 2023 to North Carolina. And one of my friends the other day said, gosh, aren't you afraid about, how hard it'll be to make new friends? And I looked at her, I said, give me a week in the yarn shop.
Right.
That's it. I'll have friends.
Yes, you will. All your best friends, you will meet them there because they're going to be psychographically, they're going to be just like you.
They're nice people.
And they're nice people and they like to do what you do and they're interested in the same things. I mean, 201, the women in my shop are, they're bright, they're engaged, they're lovely and charming. I have the nicest people. I mean, everybody thinks that, I'm sure. I don't know. I certainly have the nicest people.
It's been, back when I did the travel knitting blog, I think I visited, what are we on? Gosh, I think it was up in the 60s in terms of yarn shops that I visited and spent time with and interviewed. And 201, I think there was only one where I thought, ooh, wow. They were all wonderful people who were instantly welcoming. And, the 13-year-old will take the 80-year-old and show her how to look up Ravelry on her smartphone that she doesn't know how to work.
Download this app and, and they're so patient. They're so patient in the way their own daughter couldn't be. I think it's adorable. I love it. So I want to give away this book. I have this cool thing that I'm going to do. So if you are watching and you have not had a chance to comment real quick, because if you comment, you're going to be included in the drawing. So this is very cool. Beverly Reiser, yes, a special family. So look at Sherry. Sherry wants to invite you to her yarn store. So you have to look up Sherry. Sherry's awesome. And she has a friend also down there in that area that you will love. So, okay. So I'm going to give everybody just a minute to comment and then we will see. So the rules for this are that you have to comment and you have to be present. So yay, very cool, very fun. And one more minute. And you will have to contact me with your mailing address. You have 24 hours to contact me with your mailing address, and then I will mail this book out to you. So super exciting it is. I think going forward, I'm going to give something away on every single podcast. I think, wouldn't that be fun? I mean, this is fun. I love giving stuff away. I set the reminder. I'm here. Yes. Yay. Okay. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that you see how this goes. Not you, person, you spam person.
Oh, charming.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. What is wrong with these people? I swear.
Don't you all have better things to do?
It's some kind of a bot. Okay. Okay. So I am going to, we have 33 entries. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, it's like spinning through them. How fun.
It is. Nora David. Yay. Okay. Yes. Okay. You are the winner. So you have 24 hours to email me at welcome@crazyforyouYarns.com and with your mailing address, and I will send the book off to you. So yay. Oh my goodness. Well, it's been so super fun, Allie. Tell us again the names of your next books and where people can get them. I have sold all of the books that I ordered, but I can order some more. Nice thing
about
no guy. Nice thing about getting the books from me is that they're all signed by Allie, which is fabulous. So I love that. Mine is signed to me. And yours will have a signature on it too. There we go. Yay. So isn't it cute? You will love it. I think it'll be sort of a, I guess it's a balance between, wanting to read it and wanting to savor it. So.
Oh, please read it. Read it.
Just read it.
Yeah. When people come up to me at book fairs or whatever, and they hold out a dog-eared, totally beat up copy of a book and ask me to sign it, that to me, it's kind of like the loved teddy bear, right?
Absolutely. The Velveteen Rabbit. Okay. The names of your next books and when we can expect them.
In April will be the next book, and that is called Knit or Die Trying, with DYE, Die Trying. You can also find all of this at alliepleiter.com. We'll list them out as they go, and then some of the other books are there as well, but that's usually another good place to find them. And then and that one is all about, excuse me, artisan dyeing and indie dyers and that kind of thing. And then the Christmas book, I don't actually have the month of release yet. I think it might be October of this year, It Came Upon a Midnight Shear.
Okay.
And that is all about vicuña.
Oh, very nice. So Terry had a question about, we're all Audible book fans, audiobooks.
Yes,
so
they are all available on audio. And the knitting pattern has a downloadable PDF from the Audible. So you don't miss that. And
awesome.
My voice is on the beginning and the end of I don't actually do the reading, even though I am a theater major. There's like 60 voices in the whole series. And I'm like, I know when to leave that to the professionals. So you hear me for a little bit. And then this marvelous woman does a terrific job. And as far as I know, she will be doing the entire series, because I said it has to be an audiobook version. Knitters love audiobooks.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Okay, so we are looking forward to that. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all of my viewers. I'm excited to have you here. And next week, we are going to be looking at the beautiful new copper interchangeable needles from Likey. So that's what I'm going to have for you next week. And that's going to be super fun. And until then, keep knitting and create something beautiful. Thanks so much for joining me, and good night.
It's been so much fun. Thanks for having me.